What's going on? I'm Cameron Reeves, and this is the Reeves Rules podcast. Today, we've got a great friend of mine, Curtis Schaefer, here with me. We went to college together. He's a world famous videographer. He is the man. He's also ripped. I'm so excited to get into this with him. Welcome. Good morning.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That was a
Good
grand
morning.
introduction that I didn't
Absolutely.
deserve, but thank you. Appreciate it. How's it going?
Dude, things are good. I'm so excited to have you on here, and
It's my pleasure. I'm excited, man. We both like recently moved to Boca, to the city. I feel like we both just taken on new journeys over the past year, and we have a lot of catching up to do for sure.
we do, absolutely. We were
Yeah.
chatting before this even started, and
Yeah.
I was like, we got to get rolling. We're getting into it too
Every
quick
conversation
here.
with you, it just always goes somewhere really interesting, and I feel like we've said this before. It's like we need to just do a podcast
Yeah.
episode, and like now we're here. We manifested it.
We did it. We did it. So, I know I gave you a beautiful intro, but introduce yourself. Tell the audience what you do, and just a little bit about Curtis.
Yeah, I've been a full-time videographer, creative arsenal for the better half of like 10 years now.
Wow.
I mean, yeah, it's really been 10 years. It's 2025. I picked up a camera, well, at 10 years old, 2010 was the first time I picked up a camera. But like creating it as a business and like doing it for work, that journey started in 2014 when I was a sophomore in high school. And my photography or Photoshop class teacher told me like, hey, like, you have a knack for this. You could totally make money doing this. And I was doing it just for fun, just as a hobby. My grandfather and my father are both photographers, just as a hobby. They never pursued it as a career. But yeah, when she told me that, I was like, you can make money with a camera in like 2014. I'm like, that's crazy. I thought it was just a fun thing. So she was like, yeah, why don't you go approach the seniors and see if they want to do like senior photos? I'm like, wow, okay, cool. So I go up to the seniors. I'm like, hey, like I'll take your pictures for like $30. And the next thing you know, I had like 10 seniors. I'm like, oh, $300, like right, just like that. And I was also working at Panera Bread at the time, which was my first ever like real job and my last ever real job, like last ever
That's
legit
wild.
job that I ever had. So I quit that after 3 months because I realized I can make more doing one photo shoot than I could a whole weekend at Panera Bread. So I just took that ambition and that passion, and somehow 10 years later, man, it's taken me here, and I've been blessed to have met so many incredible athletes, celebrities, entrepreneurs, and just other creatives that have inspired me to just be better at my craft. And now I can say, just being a Swiss Army knife creative is kind of what I call myself. Photographer, videographer, editor, creative director, if you will. And in this social media landscape, like there's never been more demand for people like doing what I do, So it's exciting to be in this area. It's scary. It's intimidating almost because there's a lot of newcomers, a lot of people that are absolutely crushing it. So you have to be on your toes. You have to be
Absolutely.
ready. Hmm.
What That's so cool, and what a cool story to have a teacher spark that initial
Hmm.
drive to get into it for
Shout
you.
out Miss Victoria Lampy. She was the guiding light to my high school years for sure.
That's awesome. And I have an overlap there because I also took AP graphic design Photoshop class, and I loved it. But it wasn't videography, and making money in Photoshop and design is a little bit different.
Right.
But being able to take a skill like that and make money at
Hmm.
14 and leave like 9 to 5 jobs behind that young, that's really cool.
Just being able to make money with like your phone and stuff and
Absolutely.
like online and growing up in this generation where social media and like the internet was a part of our upbringing. I remember like telling my dad in high school, I'm like, yo, I'm gonna start like making money off of this stuff. Like I'm gonna be borrowing your camera like every weekend. Like, is that fine? He's like, yeah, for sure. But he's like thinking in his head, this will just be like a phase. Like he'll go to college
Right.
still and like he'll get a normal job after this phase is over. And I remember just constantly telling him, and then next thing you know, like bigger photo shoots happening. I'm doing weddings, and then my first like brand hit me up, and then I started doing real estate. Like I went every which way because I didn't know where to start. I was just like saying yes to everyone, taking every
Absolutely.
opportunity I could get. And even when I started like making, I don't know, like 500 to $1,000 a month in high school, which was a lot for a high school student, what I mean? It's just a lot in general. And I was telling my dad, and he's like, someday you're gonna have to, still get another job. Like it was always in the back of my head, like, is this ever gonna be full time? And yeah, that's a scary thing because it's like in
Absolutely.
the whole like digital world, it's it's easy to make something like you can make quick money fast, but the security's really hard to get, and that takes years of developing a network and building relationships and building trust. and having like repeat clients and then getting retainers and then sort of building like a reputation where people know you for something. That is how you build like longevity in this career. But this career is, it's very volatile because it's changing so quickly. And social media, new platforms are here left and right. TikTok's gonna get banned one day, and then it's not gonna get
Right.
banned. It's like, where are you supposed to put all your energy as a creative entering this landscape? Like I can't believe I entered it in 2014, 15, but I can't imagine entering it now. On one hand, there's more opportunity than ever, but there's also more competition than ever.
That's super true. Super true. And I really think that's the luster of being an entrepreneur, no matter what your space is having to take on that risk of no stability.
Hmm.
But the path that I've taken, I graduated college, I got a job working a 9 to 5 as a software engineer. Uh, Company started to go belly up, they let me go. So now, whenever people are like, "Oh, well, my 9 to 5 is secure," I'm like, "Is it? You may think it is, it may, but you don't know what's going on behind the
Right.
curtain."
There's an
So,
illusion of security. Like you get
absolutely,
that paycheck every month, and there's someone telling you when to show up, telling you what to do. You
100%.
don't have to. That part's on autopilot. But then, yeah, you're right.
The
That's crazy.
placebo pill of security.
Yeah, that's even more scary though.
Absolutely. What is the best moment you have had building your videography business?
Wow, that's a good question, man. And I love that how you framed it, like building, because it's always building. Like I've never stopped building. You never make it. I would say one of the like most profound moments for me. This is something that we bonded over. Working with Ronnie Coleman
Oh yeah,
was like, I could get emotional thinking about it because it was the first moment in my career. 2020, I was a junior at Rollins. We were in college together. It was the first moment in my career that I felt my hard work in this journey of being a creative and pursuing whatever success was supposed to look like. I didn't know what it was supposed to look like. When I connected with Ronnie and he became a client and then a friend, sort of that journey right there with that one relationship validated every hard moment I had leading up to that point. Every all nighter, every point that I questioned myself if this was worth it, every person who told me I couldn't, every person who might even, my friends and my closest people that were like, oh, but you're still going to get another job after this, right? Every voice in my head of self doubt vanished at that point for temporarily. It comes back every once in a while. But in that moment, that was the biggest point where I was like, you know what? This is what it was for. Because Ronnie was an icon for me growing up. And I've always been like a fitness enthusiast, gym goer.
guys are
Like,
ripped
yeah, well, I just try
right
to keep
here.
up with you, man. But I just love being healthy. I love feeling great.
Absolutely.
And Ronnie, even if you're not a bodybuilder, which I was not about, that's not my goal. But you know who Ronnie Coleman is. He is like the Michael Jordan of bodybuilding. And so when I got that DM from William, who's his marketing lead in his business, which is based in Orlando, and they were reaching out to me. It's actually a crazy story because they were looking for someone who applied for a marketing position at his company. The guy they were looking for had the same name as me. His name was Curtis.
Oh,
Supposedly,
wild.
this guy worked at the marketing department of Rollins College. So if you know me, but if you know Rollins, you search up Rollins College and Curtis, my name pops up because I did the YouTube videos for the
Absolutely.
school. So when the Ronnie Coleman team was looking for this Curtis that worked in the Rollins marketing department, they stumbled across my page. They sent me a DM thinking that I was the person that applied for this job, which I wasn't. And I get this DM and I'm like driving home from class or I'm in between like one of my classes and I remember like I'm like, holy shit! Like, what? Why is Ronnie Coleman's marketing director DMing me, and what do they want to do with me? Like, who am I to them? Like, what? Why would they approach me? And so I didn't know that it was this like fate, God moment maybe. And I remember responding right away, and I was like, yeah, I'll meet you at your office tomorrow. So I like remember skipping class the next day to like just meet up with them. I'm like, this is this crazy opportunity, and they're like, yeah, we wanna, we're starting to really ramp up our YouTube channel. We need like a professional videographer, and then I'm thinking like I'm a professional videographer now. Like this is what it is. Like this is being a professional, I guess. And I remember like writing a proposal and over the span of a few months, we tried a bunch of different things and we just developed this great relationship. And I got to know the team and then Ronnie. And I think that experience working with them was just a turning point in my career. Not because it made me a ton of money, because it didn't. It it just validated my feelings in this path And it also just told me like, hey, like you're doing it, and it's it's happening.
Absolutely.
Felt good.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
What a cool story too.
it was, and I'm
And when you
proud.
you talk about the self-doubt, the level of spirit, uh, the effort and the hard work it takes to be an entrepreneur, and then you know who always has our back is God, and that's a God moment right there. That's a
Absolutely.
God wink saying, "Hey,
Hmm.
I got you."
Yeah,
That's cool.
absolutely. You're so right. I'm very grateful for that moment because, it reminded me like I think that was at a time where my relationship at the time was rocky. I lost a couple big clients at the time in like the real estate world. I thought that was going to be my niche.
Hmm.
Like I was like getting into managing 5 or 10 like real estate agents social media. So it was like I was going down a certain path thinking that this was it, and then the bridge got burned and I had to pivot. I went down this direction, then I had to pivot again. But that's entrepreneurship, right? You keep having to
Absolutely, it
pivot, but
is.
it's like every pivoting point is like a moment of uncertainty. It's a moment of self-doubt. It's a moment to reflect, and it's also a moment to be grateful to God, and just for the journey, because every moment is a learning point. And if I didn't pivot, and if I instead just like stopped and moved on to another thing, it wouldn't have eventually taken me to there and then to the next thing and eventually to where I'm at now. So,
Absolutely. And that's something that all the doubters and the people who tell you, hey, you're going to need to get a job, this isn't going to work out, is every entrepreneur hits a wall. Like the first path never works out. And being able to not see that as a failure, see it as a learning opportunity, pivot, try another one, pivot, try
mhm,
another one. And you're just a machine and you keep going until
yeah.
you're sitting here and you found what works for you.
Yeah, but even the first path doesn't work out, neither does the second, neither does the third, neither does the
Absolutely.
10th, neither does the 279th. That's what I'm realizing. It's been 10 years and I'm experiencing the same struggles of losing clients today as I did when I started. So it's like you think that you'll have like a make it point where you get to a certain point and everything's just fine, or you're making like a X amount of money and like all the problems you used to deal with go away,
Hmm.
or you've worked with this level of client and then you don't have to worry about finding work. But every time you get to like a new altitude, there's new problems to deal with.
100%.
Like there's new challenges to solve, new obstacles that are bigger than the ones that you were facing when you were thinking this was it. So like that's also something I'm learning at this like new maturity point of my career where I'm like, okay, we've come a long way, but there's also so much further to go. And it's not letting that like scare me or intimidate me, because little me is looking at me now being like, dude,
Man.
you're living the prayers that we prayed 5 years ago. And so now it's like the same mentality. It's like eventually I'm going to be able to look ahead and be like, listen, keep going. These bigger obstacles now are just the product of the growth. I'm prepared for this moment, not the bigger obstacles are gonna stop me from getting to the next one.
100%. And I think having those reflecting moments of things that you have overcome
Hmm.
is so rewarding because people feel like you have this make it moment and it's not that, but what it is oh well, we started this business from nothing. We overcame that.
Hmm.
And so now when a hard moment comes, it's like, well, look what I did back then. I can do this. And you believe in yourself and God was there for you. And
Hmm.
you stack on those moments. What is it that keeps you motivated to keep building in those hard moments?
It's another great question. What is it that keeps me going in the hard moments? Man, I'm gonna get emotional just thinking about it. Damn, you made me cry already, dude. I just whenever I think about my family, I get emotional. In a good way. I love my family.
Absolutely.
It's my family, man. Like
That's all we got.
it's my rock, dude. I'm the oldest of three, so I have two younger siblings. And if you're an oldest child, like you understand this, but I'm blessed. I come from an amazing family. My parents like set such a beautiful example for what like leading a family is supposed to look like. And I have an amazing clan with my siblings. Like, we support each other, we love each other, and it hasn't always been that way. Like we've gone through the normal sibling
Of
shit,
course.
like we have hated each other. I've nearly killed my brother countless times. He's nearly killed me, but I've protected my sister, and I've always like that's just like what we have, and it didn't happen on accident. But you know, what keeps me going in the hard times is like I've got a family that believes in me. I've got two younger siblings that look up to me, and I don't want to let them down, dude. Like I would rather let myself down than let them down.
100%.
And so it's like if I give up on me, I'm giving up on them. And they've allowed me to be here. Oh, shit. They've allowed me to be here and where I'm at because, you know, when I'm at my rock bottom, like they're all I've got. You know, friends come and go, and you know, a lot of people come and go in your life, but family is forever. And some friends get to be family because you choose to keep them in your life and they choose to be in your life. I have those friends too. And when I speak about family, I don't just mean my immediate family. I think of my best friends, you know? But my family keeps me going, man. They have been there through everything for me. They've supported every achievement that I've had, but they've also been there when things didn't work out. And even though my dad always gave me that healthy amount of self-doubt, it was a healthy amount of self-doubt because deep down I knew he believed in me. Deep down I knew he knew I could do it. He just wanted to keep me in check and make sure that I didn't ever get comfortable with where I was at.
Right.
He wanted to make sure that every milestone I hit wasn't like oh, you're here now, like you can let your foot off the gas. He was like, no, like someone's coming to take your position because someone has a regular job, someone isn't happy with where they're at, and someone wants to learn the things you're doing so that they can do it better.
Right.
And if I didn't have that in the back of my head, it wouldn't have kept me going at 100 miles an hour. So, you know, it's like he set that example for me, and my siblings have always been there for me. And, you know, I want to just be the best example I can for them because if I wasn't, if I didn't have them, I wouldn't be here. Yeah.
That's so awesome. I'm the oldest of four, so I know how it feels to be the oldest, and there's a level of responsibility you feel to be the one and go out and do the hard things. Um, and that takes guts.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think as a older sibling, like I've taken pride in this like responsibility and this like gift. Like God's put me in this position to be like a leader. I think I'm naturally there's the older sibling, or it's just like the sibling stereotypes. You know, like the oldest sibling is typically a natural leader and maybe more outgoing. The middle child usually is like the odd one out and is very different than the other two, tends to be a little quirky or just like unique. The youngest child loves to just go under the radar and do things their own way, be very independent, you know, doesn't want to, you know, rely on anyone else. So me and my siblings sort of like lean into those roles, like just somehow it's just naturally that's how we are.
Yeah.
But I believe like there's a reason that I am the way I am. There's a reason you are the way you are, and being an oldest child, like we get that. So it is cool, and I take pride in it. It's a responsibility that I'm proud to like wake up every day. I'm like, yeah, like I get to do these things for my family because that's the position I've been put in to do that.
Absolutely. And something that I love that you said was it didn't happen by accident. The bond that you guys have, it takes effort because I find myself putting effort into that. You know, I'll text my youngest brother. It's myself, and then I have two younger brothers.
Hmm.
I'll text the youngest one, "Hey, how you doing? You know, miss you. Hope you're well. Miss you too." You know, like
Yeah.
he's 16. He's
Yeah.
giving me the shortest response possible.
Yep.
But putting that effort in is so worth it
Totally.
because at the end of the day, and I realized this so much more after college, is like, yeah, friends are there when they're there, but family is what's there when you need them most.
Hmm.
And it takes effort and it takes love and it takes energy, but
Yeah.
it's worth it.
Absolutely. That's the plant that you always have to keep watering. And you know,
100%.
also understand like I you know, it sounds like you also have such a beautiful family, but you know, not everyone is fortunate enough to have siblings, let alone great, amazing supporting siblings, you know, two loving parents that are still together. It's rare to have that. And when you do have that, it's like you better be damn grateful because a lot of
Absolutely.
people don't. And even the people that don't, you know, it's beautiful when I have some friends that always, you know, growing up, my house was like the hangout spot. And it wasn't because my house was like necessarily nicer than my other friends' houses. Like, but I think growing up, I was like, why does everyone want to just like hang out at my house? And then I realized that my family just created this like loving space for all my friends to come over. And my friends started calling my mom mom, and they started calling my dad dad. And I guess in my like later teenage years, I realized like, man, I have something really special, and it's a gift to be able to share that with people. Because then I realized going to my friends' houses that their houses weren't the same, and you know that wasn't their fault. that's just the cards they were dealt. And, you know, they didn't complain about it. They were grateful for what they had. They still loved their family. But I also saw that they, you know, leaned on my family in a comforting way because they didn't have some of the things I had. So it made me more grateful for what I had, I guess is the bigger picture.
Absolutely. And I think now more than ever, people pick up on that authenticity, like that energy. Like when you walk into a house and it's just full of love and
You feel it right away,
you
dude.
feel
You
it.
feel
It's
it right away.
different. And I think that's even more so online. Like there's so much fake, uh, you know, things going on Instagram and all these videos. There's so much content and so much of it is not genuine that when someone is genuine, it goes right through that and people see that.
Speaks
And I think that's
volumes.
super important.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
authenticity I think is that's like the most underrated. I wouldn't even call it a skill, but I don't. What would you call that? Like, it's like a trait. It's like a inner thing that you can have or you don't. But a lot of people can ruin their authenticity by taking shortcuts or being greedy or taking advantage of a situation they shouldn't have taken advantage of. But that authenticity, it's like trust. It takes years to build, and you can break it just like that. But I think
100%.
when you are with an authentic person, your guard gets let down a little bit and you can relax a little bit and you don't feel nervous because there's just this energy there that you feel like you're speaking with exactly who you're speaking to and not somebody that they're trying to be or someone that they're pretending to be, and you're kind of more at ease with that.
100%. And I think some people may attribute that to confidence, but I would use a different term. And this is something that we at Pilo Bar always instill in our brand. It's our entire branding is step into self-love, loving yourself. People who love themselves are able to love other people. They're able to be genuine. They're able to open up their heart and share that happiness with other people because they love themselves.
I love
But if you
that.
don't love yourself, you're not going to be able to love
Right.
anyone else. I mean, you're empty.
Right. Yeah, you absolutely, yeah, you have to pour into your cup before you can pour into others. Otherwise, you're pouring out of an empty cup. And like that capacity to love comes from like how much you can love yourself. You're absolutely right. I love how you frame that.
Oh, I love this. When did you realize videography was changing your life beyond just when you started it at 14 and realized this was something that was going to be you for the long term?
Yeah. Wow, that's a great question. Changing my life. It continually reminds me. It's so crazy that it changed my life. I think entering the space, entering like the creative space, I I've always been into traveling. Like I grew up traveling with my family, been to 34 countries. Very lucky to have seen so much, and I'm only 24. Um, so when I picked up a camera for the first time, logically, the first thing I thought of was like, man, I want to travel with this thing. And I knew that that wouldn't be like the immediate, first gig was going to be, oh, you're going to go sent to Bali to shoot like a resort with a bunch of influencers. Like that's not, first step logically. But I was like, someday I'm going to travel with this thing. I didn't know how, I didn't know, you know, what I was going to do to get there, but I was like, someday that's going to happen. So I remember the first shoots were like all local, senior photos, grad shoots, weddings, family pictures, and then brand stuff. And then, before I knew it, I think it was like 2019, I, started getting gigs in other cities. I was like, oh, now I get to drive my car somewhere. I can write off the gas, and now I feel like an entrepreneur or whatever that's supposed to be. And then it was, working with Ronnie. Then I remember the first gig I shot for them. That was like the first proper big gig. They were like, hey, Curtis, what are you doing October the 27th to 31st? I'm like, it's Halloween. No, but not probably not much besides class. I was like, yeah, no, I'm free. I'm definitely available the whole time. I'm free. And they're like, okay, we're going to Dubai. We just need a videographer for like a week. Is would you be able to come? And I'm like, let me think about it. Yes,
Yeah, absolutely.
absolutely. And so I remember telling my professors, like, hey, I have this incredible opportunity. I had an amazing relationship with all my professors, and they supported my entrepreneurial journey. Shout out to Rollins because
That's
I don't
awesome.
know if any other school and any other professor-student relationship would have allowed for that. But I was very honest with them. I said, hey, like, I know I'm about to miss like a whole week of class. I know this isn't like a valid reason on the syllabus that I'm
Yeah.
supposed to be able to like have an absence. I know that I've also used all my skips already probably, but I was like, I have to go on this trip. I can't not go on this trip.
Right.
Please, can I go on this trip? And they're like, Curtis, go on that trip. Just get the assignments done whenever you can, just when you get back, just be ready to lock in. But this is important to you. I see that this is, your business, this is your path. Go on that trip. So I would say like that was the moment where I was like, holy shit, okay, this is like my first traveling video shoot and going to Dubai with the team and just being in a whole other country. And my dad grew up traveling for work. So I texted my dad in the group chat when I was like taking off on the flight. I'm like, hey, guess who's going on their first work trip now? And my dad just had a laugh at it. He's like, you're doing it. You're doing it, man. But yeah, the first international trip would have been the moment that I was like, oh, wow, like we're here, you know? This is like the traveling with the camera moment. Yeah, this is what I dreamed of. It
That's
happened.
so cool. That's cool. And what a great experience to have at Rollins allowing that. I was not I didn't have that opportunity there, and how young. I mean, that's so awesome, and that's what people go to college for.
Right. Yeah.
And so for them to you know, support that, that's what it's about, and that's really cool.
So grateful for that school, man. And we share that bond, Maddie. Like you get it. Like that school is so special to me, and I feel forever indebted to the opportunities and the position that school put me in to succeed. And I always told myself coming into college, because I knew I was going to go to college. It wasn't like I'm going to go get this degree to get somewhere. It
Right.
was just like, okay, like logically, that's what my parents want. 4 years in higher education can't hurt. And, I'm going to go with an open mind. And even though I knew I wanted to do what I was doing, I was like, this can't hurt. So going into it, that was the mentality. But coming out of it, I realized the biggest value I got out of my 4 year education at Rollins was not the degree, wasn't the piece of paper at the end, and it wasn't the classes that I was taking, but it was the relationships I built. And those relationships have still come back to pay dividends over the
Here we are.
years. And
Yeah.
it's amazing. Like I'm sitting here with you and, where I'm living at here in Boca with Hannah, and I met her at Rollins, and working with Ronnie Coleman came from Rollins. Like every opportunity and every moment I've had, I can somehow trace it back to Rollins and the fact that they set me up for success, allowing me to, co-build the Rollins brand with mine. And just like that journey, those relationships with President Grant Cornwell, and who's about to retire, congratulations. So yeah, like just being at that school set me up in a way to just make incredible relationships that I think are going to last me the whole lifetime.
That's super cool, and I think you said it perfectly. And I feel like there's a stigma around college of, is it worth it? Is it not? Because I remember when I graduated, I got my job right out of school as a software engineer. Engineer or interviewing for a software engineering job is pretty rigorous because they make you like code on the spot and that kind of stuff.
Jeez.
So,
Code me a whole app right now.
Yeah, so I get the job, and they're like, "Oh, you got it." And I was like, "Do you not want to see my degree?" They're like, "No, we don't need it." And I said, "Well, it cost a lot of money and it took a long time to get. I'm gonna send it to you." They're like, "No," and I said, "I'm sending it. Like you're getting it."
You know what my GPA was?
Yeah.
I lost so many sleeps over this.
Yeah, I was like, "You're getting it." But I think you're so spot on. That's not what it's about.
No.
It's not about the degree necessarily. It's about. I just remember being 18. I was like a meathead. I couldn't talk to anybody. I wouldn't be able to approach anybody.
man.
And after school, like I could go up and talk to anybody. I went up and talked to Travis Kelsey at the gym the other day. Like
You did.
it's just learning how to navigate other people that may think differently or from different backgrounds. That's where the value is of college. I agree with you.
And I think a lot of people like see college as a like singular goal. It's always been marketed to us as like get the degree. Get the degree,
Right.
then get the job. Get the degree, then the opportunity will come. Get the degree, then you'll be ready for XYZ. But now I get it. It's an experience of growth where you're going from high school, where graduating high school, you think you know it all, you think you're ready for the world. And, some people choose to go from high school to whatever path they're on, and that's great. But for a lot of people that don't have, something that they're chasing, or they don't have it all figured out, which is most people coming out of college or high school, they need some sort of community to guide them and shape them into the man or woman they're becoming. And, Rollins really set that for us because we had, the intimate classes, great relationships, people from all over the world. We were surrounded by international students every day. So we learned how to communicate with, all types of cultures. We learned how to carry ourselves professionally. We learned how to, interact with all different types of people. And it wasn't just the degree, it was building these relationships. And, Yeah, I think that growth, and it really shapes you at such a critical point, like 18 to 22. You're changing and growing so much. So whatever environment that you're in at that point in time, you're going to be changing a lot for the better, for the worse. So what environment can you put yourself in where at the end of that changed environment, you're going to come out and be the best possible version of yourself? And a college experience like going to Rollins, it was an incredible environment to facilitate change in a good way.
Absolutely. What's one piece of advice you would give your younger self? And I think further is if someone wants to start a videography business and you've gone through these many pivots of trial and error, what would you do differently?
One piece of advice and what I would do differently. So much advice, man. I have a whole like quote book of things too. Like every time I think of good advice or I hear good advice, I like write it down. But let me think. I'd say the one piece of advice would be you don't need anyone to tell you you can do it. And I think that's like a lot of people have maybe heard that, but you have to believe that because we all look for validation. We all want to feel validated. We all want to feel heard and understood. And it's really hard to feel understood when you're doing something that not many people are doing. Where do you find validation for this path where you feel like you're alone and you feel like no one that you know and no one in your friend group understands what you're doing? You just feel alienated. You feel like you're the one that's the odd one out. You feel like you're doing the wrong thing when everyone else is doing what seems to be the right thing. But it's like you don't need anyone to tell you you can do it. And for the longest time, a lot of people told me I couldn't. And very few people told me I could, but it's like none of that mattered. I had to tell myself I could.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, if I was looking for my parents' permission, they didn't give me permission. They told me not to. Not like literally, but that was kind of the message I thought I was receiving. I can look back now and see why they were saying that. But then it felt like don't pursue this path. It's too shaky. And every person that even was in this field was like, I don't know, it's hard. Like, you know, like you could try. So it's like if I everywhere I looked, I was getting no's. And I had to find a yes somewhere. So I was like, you know what? What if I was giving myself permission to do it? And, you know, at the end of the day, like at every time I was alone, every time I made it, you know, I was celebrating alone and just with my core people. But then I was also failing alone and then with my core people. So the times I needed the validation most, there was no one there to give it to me. So I had to be the person to validate it myself. And then only after doing that for so many years did I eventually get those moments where it was validated by something else or an achievement or a client relationship or a moment, if you will. But it's like if you're chasing that, you're never going to get it because then you're just going to be running in circles looking for something that you're just never going to get until you give it to yourself first. And so I always just told myself, like, you know what, this is the path that I've chosen, and I'm going to go down that path no matter how long it takes until we figure it out. And that's what I just always told myself. And, you know, I think if I waited for permission or if I, you know, waited till someone told me, like, hey, like, you're doing it, then, you know, I wouldn't have got here necessarily. But that, I think, is the key for me, the advice. You don't need someone to give you permission because if you're going to do something that most people aren't doing, then most people are just not going to understand that.
Absolutely. And I think that's such beautiful advice. And not that either one of us are necessarily at the top, but the old
Nope.
cliche of it's lonely at the top
Yeah.
is so true. And I see that because if you're not engaging in this entrepreneurship journey, it just doesn't make sense to other people. Like it's just really not something you can talk about because it's either offensive to other people or they're just going to tell you that it's stupid. Like it's
Mhm.
really just kind of a lose-lose. And I've always liked just grinding in silence. It's like
Yeah.
just I don't need to go tell everybody what I'm going to do. It's like I got this. Let's just do it we'll let the action speak.
Yes.
You know.
That's the key, bro. Letting the actions speak. People talk way too much now, and it's
Oh
so
yeah.
easy to like. You can just start a podcast. You can go to one of these studios, hit up Christian, and be like, "Yo, I want to start a podcast tomorrow." And there are so many people that can do that,
100%.
and they absolutely should not be doing that because it's just too. Not that they shouldn't. There's just too much accessibility to put out shit in the world. And because of that, there's a lot of great things that are coming out now because there's no barrier to entry. But there's a lot of rubbish. There's a lot of just noise. And that's why I tell people like tune out the noise. Once you put on like, the noise canceling headphones, if you will, of just that tunnel vision of what you're focusing on and the few people that you need to focus on those things with, then it becomes really clear what your vision is. But most people have way too much noise because there's too much scrolling, their screen time's crazy, way too many people in their life telling them what to do. They're looking for validation from every single person in their friend group or all their parents and all their siblings to tell them, hey, like, yeah, that's the thing. Go do it. That's going to be your success. It's like, no, like tune out the noise and your inner voice will tell you. But it's really hard to hear that inner voice because it's so quiet and it's usually very, it's very, very timid at first, that inner voice. You have to like train it to be louder, but you can't hear it at first unless you turn down the volume, isolate from everything else, and then you'll find that. And then eventually you'll be able to handle the noise of the world and all that. But no, you're so right, dude. Like, it's just really noisy out there.
Yeah, it is. And it doesn't even matter how successful you are. Like, if you go look at anybody who you would deem successful, there's going to be hate comments.
Yeah.
And the people in the hate comments are going to have no profile picture, no post. It's like,
Yeah.
you're either a creator or a consumer.
Yep.
And to be a creator, it's not easy. You got to put yourself out there and you got to believe in yourself. And like you said, you got to be the one to tell you can do it.
Yeah. Unapologetically. Yeah, dude.
Absolutely.
For sure.
I think that leads us into a good and final question is how do you define success?
That's a tough one, man. I've always felt very successful just in like my happiness first. And like I know that's super cliche and everyone says that. But like I never felt like a failure when I lost a client. I never felt like a failure, when shit hit the fan or, when I couldn't afford to pay my bills 1 month or whatever it was. But I truly have always felt just blessed and happy to be able to wake up every day and pursue something I love. Because a lot of people are in positions where they are working because they have no choice. They're in a career just because it's the only choice that they have, and I'm so glad that I'm in a position where I have choices. I've earned the ability to have these options and to be at a point where I can pick the clients I want now and I don't have to say yes to everything. But at the same time, like I choose to be happy every day. And I think that for me is my success because, no matter what happens in this business, I don't think I'm going to be a creative entrepreneur forever. I'm eventually going to probably hang it up and go do something else. I mean, I'm always going to be a creative, but to do what I'm doing for a living, when I have a family and have kids, I want to be fully present in that chapter. So, when I'm like older and retired with my wife, sitting on a beach somewhere and I have grandkids, like I'm not going to be thinking about this creative entrepreneurial journey.
Right.
What am I going to be thinking about? I'm going to be thinking about what makes me happy, who are my loved ones, who am I spending time with? And all of that revolves around things that aren't work related. So it's like my success isn't tied to my work because if it was, I'd be freaking depressed, dude.
Right.
Because this, up and down, I'd be just like completely torn to bits if it was tied to the clients I'm working with or how much money my business is making me. I would literally hate my life. It's just too turbulent to tie it to that. The peaks, the highs bring me so much joy. The lows fuck me up.
Right.
They're both part of it. I need both of those for this to work, right? Because it's up and down, but ultimately, if you draw the average, it's going up, But my happiness isn't tied to that. It's tied to my loved ones, how I wake up every day, my conversations and my relationship with God, the people in my life that support me and love me for who I am outside of the pursuits and the work, the people that just hit me up to hang out and catch up. That's my happiness. And I'm so grateful I have just the best people in my life, man. I have so many incredible relationships, so many incredible people that surround me with so much love. And I just want to give back to all those people because that's my happiness. It's this community and this circle of caring and loving people that are here for me, and I want to be there for them, and that's what gets me up every day. That's what puts a smile on my face, man. That's it.
Absolutely. And that's so beautiful, and that's the rewards of entrepreneurship. That's the rewards of taking those risks. Is having that freedom
Yeah.
and being able to spend time with loved ones
You buy
and
back that
invest in them.
freedom. You
That's
buy
right.
back your time. It's like the 100-hour weeks are so that, over the summer, I can take maybe a whole month off and travel, and my edits are going to be taken care of, and I've got some remote work, and I'll be good. But it's like quarters 1 and 2 are going to be grinding and locked in so that I can have that summer in Europe or wherever I want to do over the summer. And then, in the winter, if I want to go on a ski trip, all right, babe, family, I'm going to lock in until December, and then we'll have that
We're
time.
doing
We'll
it.
make time for that. Because you got to
Absolutely.
make time. It's not about finding the time. You're never going to find the time. You have to make time for the things that are important. That's a big thing that I've learned recently because, I just got into a relationship 3 months ago, and, now I'm balancing girlfriend, family, living in a new city. I don't have the time for anything. You know what I mean? But
Right.
you hit me up about this podcast, man. I want to make time for this podcast. I want to make time to sit with you and have a great conversation because this is what makes me happy. This is what fills up my cup. So it's like if you don't make the time for the things that are important to you, for the things that make you happy, for the things that pay the bills, for your future goals, for your future wife, your people, then those plants will die if you don't make
100%.
time to water them.
100%.
And so I think entrepreneurship, this path that have chosen, allows us to buy back some of that time. It requires an initial investment. That investment can be a lot at times. There is a down payment. But, the bigger the down payment, the smaller those payments in the long run. And, over time, you're just building equity over this journey that you're building because you own it.
Right.
You're not building equity in someone else's thing. You're not building someone else's idea, someone else's dream. You're building your own. And knowing that no one can take that away from you, you're untouchable, dude.
Absolutely. And I think that brings a beautiful point in just the fact that the stress level is different. When you're working on your dream, I'll work 12 to 14 hours and be like, oh man, it's 3 a.m. Like,
Oh, shoot, I gotta sleep?
right.
Okay, yeah.
But it's just different. Like if you're working a 9 to 5 for that long, I mean,
Yeah,
that's a different level of stress. And that plays into anything. It's like, I was talking to Madeline in the car. I was like, I'm not in a rush anymore. Like when I had a job, like I was always rushing. I was always late. Now I only go somewhere because I want to go there. And that's just a different ballpark.
yeah,
And the more important thing you said is in those relationships, in my fiance, in my family, investing in those things, never once have I regretted it. That is the most fruitful, rewarding, dividend giving thing to invest in ever is those close family relationships. And especially just finding that one person
yeah.
that you're going to marry. That there's nothing more valuable, more worth investing in than that.
Absolutely, man. And I love that you say it like that. I think a lot of people see it as an investment, and it is an investment because it costs something. What are you willing to pay for that? But at the same time, it's an investment, but it's not transactional.
Right.
It's not you give and then you take. It's you give. It's you invest into this. It'll pay you back for sure. But if you're pouring into it with the mindset that you're going to get a return,
100%.
that's what an investment is.
Right.
I'm going to invest in this stock because eventually it's going to pay me back and it's going to double in value. If that's how you look at every relationship in your life, then none of those relationships are going to be authentic. None of them are going to be real. And those people are going to smell the bullshit and realize like this person just wants something from me.
100%.
And I think it's important to know that because I think in this like social media, like business mindset world, we talk about how relationships are an investment, which they are. But it's also important to know that they're not transactional and that I think the most real relationships are the ones where you are giving without expecting anything in return.
And I think that's the definition of love, really, is like if you're loving something, you're not expecting something back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. That's the same love Jesus had for everybody, for all of us,
Absolutely.
right? Like to love and not expect anything in return, that's hard to do, because we all want something back. But it's like when you think about the times that you're the most loved in your life, it's going to be from the people that you loved the most.
Super true.
And so it's not going to be from the random person that, you brushed off or from, the person you said no to. It's the people that you pour into will pour back into you. And, you just got to keep loving more people. A lot of people need more of that. And, you know, sometimes you're going to give something to someone and they won't necessarily be the ones to return that back to you, but someone else will. That's how the universe works. You know, not everyone has the ability to give right back to the person that gave to them. You know, I think back to like my high school teacher that planted that seed. Someday in the back of my head, I want to come back and I want to, I don't know, pay off her mortgage or buy her a car, just something as a token of just like, hey, like I want to give back to you. And even if I can't right now, I'm going to give back to as many people as I can so that eventually I can give back to her. So it's like, it's not about that one person transaction. Just give it back to somebody and it'll come back.
Just being a positive force out in a negative world, you know?
Yeah, man. Exactly.
Absolutely.
Amen.
Well, I think that's all we've got. Curtis, I appreciate you so much. This was so fun.
I appreciate you, Cam.
Wish you the absolute best.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you for joining us on the Reeves Rules podcast. We're going to be dropping weekly episodes. If you have any questions, feel free to DM me and we'll be back next week. Thank you so much.
Peace.